All right, man. So, this episode's going to be about gun control, Second Amendment, and kind of just like, I don't know, everything that goes with that. So,
Yeah,
so I actually want to know what's your opinion on, um, like just I mean, we could start with just like the shootings, like the school shootings, like obviously, like this isn't to take anything away from them, but and they're tragedies and I feel bad for everyone involved, but there should be some kind of lesson to be learned, I believe, from like every instance, positive or negative. So like I don't know how much you've like dug into it or anything, but how do you feel about everything that like is going on?
I gosh, it's tough because you put it into like a school situation, and then you think like, man, we're both parents. Like, what if we were in that situation? So it's tough. Like, my mind always goes to two things. Like, there's a logical
Hmm.
like answer and outcome, um, or at least one that is like somewhat logical, and you kind of take emotion away from it. And then there's one that like, what if I was in that position, kind of thing. So I can see both sides. I just then you put the logic back into it, and for me, I feel like I'm a very logical person, so I look at things more with logic, and I just don't see how really changing much of anything or becoming, stricter on certain things is really going to have much of an effect, right? I mean, there's X, Y, and Z way for somebody to, get a hold of something that they maybe aren't supposed to have, or you change the law to 21, and who's to say that person doesn't have a brother or a sister, or
Yeah.
some connection somewhere. I mean, we're talking to change something. It's so arbitrary that it's not, in my opinion, going to change much of anything.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact that, like, yeah, this happened. It's terrible. It's like, again, I can't even imagine what I would do if I was, even if I just had somebody, one of my kids that went to that school,
Hmm.
that was just completely, not a not affected, like not close to
Right.
it, but in the school, like I would still have, there would still be a connection there. And I get that, but I just don't, I just don't see how there's, how anyone can make an argument there that really anything's gonna change too much.
Yeah, I feel like and there's so many aspects to it. I feel like what people don't understand, like in the simplest form, there's so many layers to this, but like if your intent is to break the law, adding more laws isn't going to typically prevent you from doing that.
Right.
Usually, and specifically the Texas shooting, like wasn't a criminal. Well, that's not true. He had his record sealed because he had some criminal activity before 18. But um, typically a criminal won't follow laws. So the argument is that the more laws you put in place, it actually only affects the 99% that are following the laws. And like we can, like I have some strong opinions on on some of this stuff, and but then there's some, we'll probably get my buddy Sean on, who has some differing opinions and differing ideas. Because one thing that I've noticed with a lot of people that I've talked to about it is they're not even open. It's like lots of topics, abortion, whatever. They're not even open to hearing anything other than like absolutism. Like I
Right.
just don't think the world works in absolutes. Like, even though if you read the Second Amendment, it says the right to bear arms shall not be infringed. And that's up to interpretation, I guess, but I think that's pretty clear in my opinion. And like certain laws we can go into, like the 21 thing. So if we're gonna make buying, so handguns you can't already buy until you're 21. That's
Correct.
already a federal law. um okay, so now you can't buy assault rifles, which the term assault rifle is made up. Rifles don't assault people. uh
Right.
the AR actually came out as like sporting rifle. That's the name it was given, like sporting rifle, because people do hunt with ARs, even though people don't know that. Um, but yeah, so if we raise the age to 21 to purchase any guns, even though Matthew McConaughey says like we're not touching your shotguns, it's like, okay, well, now we're splitting hairs, you know.
Right.
I mean, would you argue like adulthood shouldn't start at 18 then, because it's like, should we just change all the rights? Can't vote till 21, can't, enlist in the
Right.
military till 21? Because how come we
Well,
pick
how
and
are you going to be able to enlist in the military but not get a gun until you're 21? I just,
yeah,
again, the logic there, just, I mean, that part, but to go even farther than that, at least for me, what difference does 21 make? Right. I get like a logical
scientifically,
perspective. Somebody's going to come out. I'm sure they're going to say like, oh, well, your brain is more developed at, 21. Sure. Okay. I'm not arguing that.
right.
You're able to make more sound and conscious decisions. Sure. I'm not arguing that. But, in the world that we live in today, when you're telling kids, completely different topic, but you're telling
Mhm.
kids that they can change their gender as early as they want, but then you're
Without,
telling
yeah,
somebody that they're not fit to, purchase a gun, whatever the gun is.
yeah,
It just, to me, what are we arguing? It doesn't make sense. Again, from a logical perspective, what difference is it going to make if you're telling somebody that they can't buy a certain gun until, and I know these laws already exist, right? You
yeah.
can't buy certain guns until you're 21. You change all that. Okay. I mean,
It's just, and a lot of it is like a slippery slope. And this is what I was talking to my buddy about, because um, we came from California, and California has arguably some of the strictest gun laws in the entire country. Hawaii is probably the only state that has stricter gun laws, besides New York. Um, uh, Magazine capacity ban, assault weapons ban, um, age restrictions, no concealed carry, no open carry, 10-day waiting period, background check, fees, licensing, just everything you possibly could have, California has. And I mean, a perfect example today is someone from California drove all the way to Maryland across the entire country, um, with a handgun to try and assassinate the Justice Kavanaugh. And literally, like, did you hear about this?
no.
Oh, it's
No,
it's
I'm
wild.
I'm I'm apparently I'm behind on
That's
this
good. That's
this
good. I
topic.
mean, one of the things, it's kind of like I have to make extra effort to be clued in, like now that I live in Texas, because people don't really talk that much about politics because it's not as like infringed on you in these freer states. You kind of got to like look for it.
It's funny,
Uh,
we talked about this after one of the ones that we did before after you moved,
yeah,
and you were talking about not really keeping up with all the politics, and I
yeah,
I just thought it was because you were just busy. And honestly,
yeah.
like since I moved here, I
You're just living your
I
life.
couldn't tell you. Yeah, I
Yeah,
couldn't tell you what's going on. I don't know. I saw something about Newsom being appointed again for something. I honestly, I don't even know anymore. And
yeah,
I really don't care.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's so nice to not have to worry about it. But yeah, I mean, to your point, this person's driving across the country.
So
What's stopping them?
they caught this guy outside of Justice Kavanaugh, who is a conservative Supreme Court justice. Um, and they arrested him. He had a handgun, pepper spray, zip ties, like all this stuff. He was going to assassinate him. He even said um, to the police that stand guard outside his home because security works. And he said, I was attempting to assassinate him to prevent the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and I wanted to have stricter gun laws. But he drove from California with a handgun to, I don't know. It's just,
Maybe he was just trying to make a point
yeah, I
that
mean, yeah,
even with these gun laws, it's not going to stop somebody from doing what they intend to do. And I think one of the biggest things is, and depending on what side that you look at, somebody's going to say, oh, well, it's going to make it harder for these people. Making it harder is not making it impossible.
Right.
That's not,
These
to
people are
me, again,
clearly determined.
exactly. We're looking at what's logical. We're not talking about emotion. I get that people are super emotional about this topic. I get that people want, protection and safety. Only police should have guns, which obviously completely different topic, or same
Yeah.
topic, but
Yeah.
it's to me, it just doesn't, the logic goes out the window, right?
Yeah.
If you're wanting to do something that is clearly showing that you're mentally unfit, you probably shouldn't be around guns anyway. There's already so much in place that tells you that you shouldn't be around guns,
Right.
but people are gonna get their hands on a gun or any kind of assault weapon that they
Yeah.
want to get their hands on.
Yeah.
If they have a motive and they want to take something out. I mean,
Yeah. And it's like replace gun with anything. Like I had a BBC article pulled up. We'll post the link in the podcast notes, but it's like, so the UK, you can't really own any guns at all. Even the police officers don't have guns. But knife attacks went from 25,000 knife attacks a year in 2015 to 45,000. So 80% increase in 5 years, because it's like, they're gonna, if someone wants to inflict harm, they're going to find a way, drive their car, drive their, drive into a crowd of people, use a knife, they're going to find a way to do it because they're crazy, they're mentally unstable. And taking and blaming, law-abiding citizens for what's happening is not the right approach. And it's a slippery slope, like, red flag laws. It's like, on the surface, it sounds great. Like, hey, my neighbor, or not even, don't even get me started with that. But my brother, he seems crazy. He also owns guns. Can you go check up on him? And they, maybe they take the guns away. Sounds like something reasonable. But at the same time, like, I live next to someone I don't like. I don't like guns. I know they have guns. You know what? I saw them doing something crazy over there. You better go take their guns. And it's like, where do we draw this line? Because this is a right, but also, yeah, they're inherently dangerous. I understand that. So it's tough.
but it's what you do with them, right? At the end of
Right.
the day. So, the thing with that is you're never going to stop the people that want to get their hands on guns, right? And to your point, slippery slope. So now we can talk about kind of the other side of it. So for me, now I look at it more from like, why would we even be talking about this? What's the goal? Well, once you start to change the age law, well, now you open the door to, well, maybe you change the type of gun law. And it's not really that big of a deal, because I mean, you got to be 21 to own the gun anyway. So what difference does it make to take 3 of these types of guns off of the list?
Yeah.
And then what difference does it make to make it the 8-round magazines instead of, what difference does it make to make this happen? And then all of a sudden we're just like, wait, what are we talking about? And I don't know if you saw this, but there was a proposition to tax gun owners
like 1,000%.
thousands of percent. Yeah, like that. What are we talking about?
Yeah.
So
yeah. It's
it
crazy.
was, I did the math, and it was like, to buy one gun was going to be like $75,000.
Yeah.
Just because of the crazy tax, and it's just to get people away from doing it. But the problem is, those people that are going to buy the gun or whatever, these people that are using guns to inflict harm, that we're trying to keep guns out, they're not going to pay the $75,000 to have the
they're
gun.
Going to steal it or whatever.
Come on. It's
crazy. And California has already done something similar. So there's a California banned list. And the whole idea behind it is, if a company doesn't every 2 years recertify, which certify means pay the state of California to put their gun on an approved list, it's all about the money. Like, then they're not allowed to sell it in California because it's not California approved, and therefore it's considered dangerous. Even if it complies with every aspect, less than 10 rounds per magazine, everything, it's not on the approved list. So really in California, you could probably only buy about 50 guns. There's probably 4,000 models of guns, and you can probably buy 50 in California. So one, they're monopolizing the market in a way, but they also are starting to ban certain parts because they're saying, and this is the slippery slope, and this is dangerous because they're saying, well, if it has a pistol grip, then it's easier to kill people, or if it has a button release to release the mag, then it's easier to switch your like. Everything is so like it's just coming down to the bits and pieces of the gun, to where like ultimately they're going to ban guns because you can't piece together one that is legal anymore, because it's just like you have to have a weird contraption that doesn't even function as intended.
Yeah, and then I look at, the other side of my brain, the logic part kind of goes back to, well, why are we even doing this in the first place? Is it really
Yeah,
for safety, or is there an ulterior motive behind all of this?
yeah,
Right? Who's speaking up? Who are the ones that are trying to change these laws, and what evidence are they using? And everything that I've seen, and I kind of laugh at it, every single thing that I've seen is somebody sitting on the panel saying, I've never seen somebody use
yeah.
a weapon to defend themselves. And then it's like, oh, this article and this article and this article. And it's just, there's
Constantly proven
everything
wrong.
is everything's constantly proven wrong. There's not anything that I've seen that's been proven
Yeah,
accurate to any of their statements. But to make matters even worse, where does to all of our point, like, where is the line drawn, right? What are we trying to accomplish? Are we trying to accomplish no guns, or are we trying to accomplish something else because we have no guns?
yeah.
It's just,
You have to, it's like, with other podcasts we've talked about, like follow the money, like follow the like you have to think, what's their end result? Like, is their end result, the big scary like socialism? I mean, maybe, like, look at Canada. Canada is banning all gun sales like going forward.
yeah,
But Canada is also in lockdown still. So like we were just locked down for 2 years. Some states less, and you could say those are the states with more freedoms just all around, not just gun rights. But the more freedom they take away from us, the more control they have over us, and they're not going to give up that control. The reason the Second Amendment is in the Constitution is so that the government is in a checks and balances with the militia, the people, to understand that we have the ability to overthrow the government if they are acting in a tyrannical sense. Like, it shouldn't come to that, but that's how the United States was made. Like, literally, they talk like Tea Party, all this stuff, but really what it was Tea Party harboring soldiers. And then, like, if you look in the history, they were trying to take the guns of the American revolutionists, and that they knew, the people who left England knew, if they give up their guns, they're done. So it was put in place to allow people to have the freedom to bear arms. And we're now like, so in the beginning we said, I'm not, I don't really believe in absolutes, but in a way, like, I mean, it was written in a way that was like, you have absolutely the right to own guns. Why are we talking about like 18, 21, 10 rounds, 15 round, anything like that,
right. It doesn't, there are certain things that can't change for certain reasons, right? And that's just one of them. If you talk about trying to do what's safe and trying to make sure that everybody's safe for all actions and all of this stuff, then you'd have stricter laws for driving and under the influence,
Yeah.
and not being able to get off easily
Yeah.
because you are married to somebody or related to somebody, if that ever happens,
Yeah. And that
which never does.
yeah, that's just crazy. But did you hear the body cam? It wasn't working, and they can't. He actually, like, they saw him come out of the jail like the next morning because he had to stay the night. Because when you get a DUI, stay the night. But they can't find his mugshot because there was an error in the system. So like it's pretty
Right.
typical. Like the cameras weren't working. But that just goes to prove it. Like if you have money, if you're in power, you can do whatever you want. You can have the guns. You can
Right.
in California, you can get a concealed carry permit if you're famous, if you got the money to pay the sheriff's department or
If there's a
whatever.
reason,
Yeah,
right, for you to fear for your life, or you have that, credential or whatever
yeah,
it is, then you can arm yourself for protection and security.
right.
But though that verbiage isn't changing
And it's not in the
for
Constitution.
yeah,
Yeah,
for those people, but everybody else,
yeah.
it's for, oh well, it's got to change for everybody else, just to make sure everybody's safe.
And you have to,
So
yeah.
it,
So in California, you have to prove that you have a reasonable cause to have a constitutional right.
right. I mean, we dealt with that for 2 years, though. I have a
Yeah,
constitutional right to live my life
to breathe air
and
outside.
to,
No,
yeah,
no.
can't do that.
Yeah. So that's just craziness. And again, like going back, we've tried an assault weapons ban. It was 10 years long. It was from 1994 to 2004.
And it
Um,
did nothing on mass shootings, which
nope.
is what they were trying to
Nope.
to change, and they did nothing for it. Did nothing for mass shootings.
And
So
even the term mass shooting. So yes, it's 4 people, killed. But they don't, when they're putting out the facts, they say there's been 250 mass shootings in the last 6 months. What the media will not say and refuses to say is gang, because
right,
50% of those, if not more, and you can fact check this, are gang related shootings that are drive-bys, are completely illegal. Obviously all shootings are illegal, but well, all shootings that aren't self-defense are illegal, but they will not talk about gangs. And maybe we're seeing the tide turning with this San Francisco DA, who was weak on crime, but getting recalled. But who knows? You can only hope.
yeah. I mean, it's honestly that hopefully that starts to change everything, but I don't see. I have yet to hear a strong, valid argument for why um, we should have stricter gun laws. Everything is coming from an emotional standpoint and from a, you know, I believe we should do this because it makes people feel safer. It's always a feel safe, and it's not, at the end of the day, it's not a, what everything was intended for, which is to be able to, we're
Protect.
not talking about protecting ourselves or having the right, so that we don't, we're not, things can't happen like
Yeah.
Australia
Yeah.
and Canada, but the problem, I think, is with everything that's going on, everybody thinks, oh, that can't happen in the US. That's not going to happen. But
I
it
mean, it
it
did.
did happen for
Yeah.
2 years,
Yeah.
and everybody just turns a blind eye because
It
there
was
was a
for
reason
safety.
for it.
It was for
It was
safety.
for safety. Again, for
We're gonna take the
safety.
guns for safety. Yet,
Exactly.
it's
Coming
not
from the same people that are okay with
abortion, killing babies.
abortion at and up to 10 weeks after. Anyway, so that's
Yeah.
doesn't make
So,
any sense.
it kind of, I mean, it does lead into kind of like the whole family situation where it's like, I think the real pandemic, if you want to call it that, or real issue is the family unit, to where like these kids are just not being raised in a way like that is, one, respectful, but even respectful of life. Like, I mean, I played Call of Duty. I loved Call of Duty, but I mean, and if someone plays it now as an adult, that's cool too. But here's the deal. Like, I mean, you don't just get to respawn in this life. Like, other humans are important, and we're being taught that no, we're the most important. I'm the most important. Nobody else matters. Just go. Life doesn't matter. Kill people. No consequences. That's a big one. I think that, if you think life has no consequences because you've been protected and kept safe and coddled your whole life, like, I mean, your actions are going to show that you think there's no consequences.
Right. I mean, take that back. Think of everything that's happened recently and all of these things that have happened with kids, whether it be kids shootings or whether it be, I mean, you can go all the way back to what happened at, um, what was that, the Route 91 tour
Yeah.
in Vegas,
Yep.
like all of these different things, like what was going on in those people's personal lives. And, you know, not once do you just find this, oh, this guy was completely normal, like had no mental illness,
Yeah.
and oh, he just decided that this is what he wanted to do today. There's always a track record. There's always something. Like this kid in Texas, is clearly completely dysfunctional family.
Yeah.
And
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 most,
then the other side of that is
most
trying to protect that, oh, it's okay, like
yeah,
that's the
most of them are
problem. That's
on medication too, on some kind of like antipsychotic or SSRI or something that is like would be an indicator for like schizophrenic breaks or something,
Yeah. And again, it's terrible that these people are having that type of you know issue going on with their brain and their mental state, but at the same time,
Everything
that's
feeds
a
into that.
different, yeah, everything feeds in, like what's going on at home, what's going on here, and and it always leads back to, okay, well, should this person have had the ability to you know do X, Y, and Z versus is it more mental state or like whatever? And are
Yeah.
we taking rights away from everybody else that is,
Yeah.
following the law and
Yeah.
has no other reason to.
And I've even heard, and this was almost mirrored what happened in Uvalde with this guy, is that they it's tied into this soft on crime idea where they were tired of the schools to prison like connection, to where like kids who got kicked out of school would then end up committing crime, like the kids who either didn't finish or got kicked out specifically, it would basically be like a pipeline to jail, or criminal record. And so what schools stopped doing, like, I mean, when I was in school, kids were expelled. Like, I mean,
Right.
we went to a private school, but I just know other schools, kids were expelled. You did something wrong, like you're out. But now, from what I've been hearing and from what I know of people who are in school, it's like, no, if you have problems or if you are, creating the same kind of problems that would get you expelled, you're now classified as like a special needs kid, to where like you're removed from class, but you're still like, they're like, you got to finish, like we got you, like, where
Yeah.
instead it's like there's no
It's more
consequence.
of a coddle rather than
Yeah,
a consequence. And when there's no
not
consequences,
real
then
life.
I mean that's not real life. That doesn't teach kids anything. And I that's been what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Where everybody wins, everybody gets a trophy,
Yep.
everything's okay, nobody has to respond to their actions. You don't even have to apologize if you don't feel like. It's
Yeah.
just there's
Yeah.
so much inherently wrong with the way that the world is, and kids are being raised, that there's no answer to expectations and all of that. It just, then you fast forward and you
The
just have
job
all of these
market.
different
Yeah.
problems. You have the job market, and now everybody's talking about like, oh, kids don't even want to work anymore. Well,
Yeah.
that's not new. They haven't wanted to do anything for years,
we
and
gave
now it's
them
just
we
a
gave them
different
checks.
thing.
Yeah, we gave them checks, and we told them that they don't have to work too hard. Make sure you get your breaks, of course, make sure you get your breaks. But
Always.
it's just a different generation where one prioritized hard work and the American dream and making it to the top and whatnot. And then the next, and of course we're parents, we want the best for our kids. We want them to have an easier life than we had, 100%. But there's a fine line to where they need to struggle a little bit to learn the life lessons that we learned. But you don't want them, to hate life, obviously, but I think people have
Learn
taken
the
it,
proper lessons.
yeah, people have taken it to the extreme to where it's like, I'm going to make sure they don't, need anything. And it's like, well, then they have no skills. And then, and then they don't want to do anything.
Yeah. And then there's no answer for any action that they have.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. I'm gonna end this one.
All right.